right? Also, land can sit, right? It's like my fastest contract from the time that I purchased the land to I got an offer was 12 hours, and my longest one was 6 months, right? So it's like, it's sometimes it can take a while. Some people aren't okay with that. But the tax sales, they can be very powerful because, for example, through the due diligence I've been doing, I found a couple more deals that are kind of unseen. So, like, for example, I found one where a developer has defaulted, and so now I have a chance to purchase 32% of a subdivision. Everything's been done. It's already been subdivided. Narrative's been set. Right there's people already in there, and so it's like, well, what is it going to take to make that property more valuable? How much is it going to cost? What percent do I really want to own? What can be done with multiple parcels?
Explain the 32% though. Like, why is it 32%?
That's just what the default was. There's 90
Okay.
there's 90 parcels in the entire acre, and 29 are for sale
Got it.
through,
All right.
through tax default. So
Got
like,
it.
so that, I mean, that's the opportunity, and that's just one. Another one I came across is there was a 0.3 acre parcel in eastern Arizona, kind of the same area. And so when I did my research, I found out that the county actually owns a 10th acre parcel that's adjacent to it, and there's a well on that property. The kicker is that the well hasn't been functional, or hasn't been in use, I should say, for like 30 or 40 years. So when I called the county, first I tried to buy that 10th acre parcel and combine that together,
Right.
and make a bigger deal. And they're like, well, we got to go down, we got to check out what's going on with the well. So they sent down the engineer, they're going to test the water. And so it's going to turn out that if they no longer need the well and they're going to decommission it, this subdivision, by the way, already has city water extended to it. Everyone's on city water, right? So it's like, the only thing that it would require is this property needs to have a septic tank. The sewer line is just a little bit too far. You'd have to cross some properties. It'd be a nightmare. And so if it turns out that the well is no longer in service and decommissioned, well, now I don't have to follow the ordinance where I have to have a septic tank at least 100 feet away from an active well, right? That buys me more space in that property. Now that makes that deal more viable.
So, okay, talk about viable. Break down the fundamentals of when you're looking at land, because there's just the raw land.
Yeah.
Then there's, you have all these additions and
Yeah.
permits or things you can do to make it better. So
Yeah.
kind of break all that down.
Yeah, that's a good question. So regardless of how I acquire the land, whether it's through tax sale or through traditional means, the process is pretty much the same. I try not to get too caught up in comps, and here's the reason why. Because what you can put on the land may make that property way more valuable than what fair market value is currently dictating, right? If I can take a piece of land and put a golf course on it, I may be willing to overpay whatever, right? So first, I take a look at what can the property be used for, and what does it have the potential to get rezoned. Those are my two major questions, and then I'm going to look at the narrative of the neighborhood. What's going on? Is something like this feasible? One thing about raw land, I don't mean to digress, but one quick thing about raw land is that people think that just because they're not making any more land, that all land is inherently valuable, and I'm here to tell you it's not. If you can't do anything to a piece of land for whatever reason, it caps the market value of that land.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, I see what can be done with it. I check out to see if it's in a flood zone is one of my other major things. Not only is it in a flood zone, but is there a natural wash? And because I looked in, so when I looked at this neighborhood where I have the option to purchase up to these 29 properties, it's in a flood zone, which I learned how to work around that, right? So that's just another, problem solved, which is great. But it's in a flood zone, and that's not inherently a problem. And it's nice in this one case because there's this natural wash where it looks like when the water's draining, it's draining to this one lot because there's so much shrubs on it, right? It's totally green, and everything else is just dirt. So it appears that when it rains, it's kind of all being shuttled away.
Right.
And so that's just a huge advantage when you can identify things like that.